I'm Sarah,
And I'm Erin.
and this is 31 Nights of Scary Shit. Hey, everybody, all two people. What was it? Our moms?
Both of our moms,
Our moms
my
that are listening?
sister, probably my niece. I mean, we're
Hopefully,
probably up to about 6.
we're up to 6. Hey, that's something. Hopefully. So this is episode 3. In the last episode, we talked about,
The,
Amityville.
that is correct. We did.
Yeah, pretty cool. Today we're going to talk about something probably, I wouldn't say equally creepy, but definitely spooky. It fits our theme really well.
It's definitely
It's
mysterious.
definitely mysterious. It's definitely really bizarre. Kind of. Well, it's unsolved, so that's even worse to me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they think they solved it, but it's unsolved.
Yeah.
So, today we're going to be doing the mysterious disappearance and then death of Elisa Lam. If you don't know who that is, if you ever saw the movie Dark Water, that whole movie was based off of that whole story of the
Right.
disappearance and then murder of
Right.
her. Sorry to give that away up top. I feel like it's kind of implied with the theme of the podcast that we're talking about just the shittiest things that happen to people. Scary,
We
murder.
like to spread the joy.
Yeah, we spread the joy one horrible story at a time because isn't everything just like a little horrible? But like, that's not why I'm into scary stuff. I think it's like more of a comforting thing. You know what I mean? Like, if I know about the spooky shit, I'm prepared.
Prepared.
It's like preppers, doomsday preppers. It's comforting that they are prepped for the
Oh.
doomsday.
I just like to hear about it. I don't know if that makes me a bad I don't know. I don't know if that makes me a bad person. I just it's interesting to
Yeah.
me.
I mean, it is. It truly is. So, for this story, I got, and like, as we've said like 18 million times, I am not personally doing this research. I am not personally investigating this in any way, shape, or form. All of my information is from the internet, which I'm aware is not factual
No,
100%
I
of the
mean, I'm
time.
sorry. I think it's all true. It's
Everything is true. The
I
earth is flat, which, by the way, that's like a whole thing. Flat earthers is like super big, popular thing, apparently, unbeknownst to me. But anyway, not onto conspiracy theories. So, all of,
Okay, I'm sorry, but that door just opened and I didn't realize a cat had okay.
there's definitely a cat.
Okay.
So,
No, it was really weird. Like you didn't see it from my
yeah.
view. It just
Well, no, I could see how it would be creepy.
it
But
was
now we do officially have a cat on the podcast right now. Lenny is making an appearance. He doesn't like singing, but he seems to be okay with the podcast. He really hates singing, like with a fiery passion. But anyway, he loves a spooky tale. So anyway, so my information I got was from allthat'sinteresting.com. There was this article by this lady called Natasha Ishak? Ishak? I'm gonna go
we'll
with
go with
Ishak.
that. Yep.
Obviously my fave Wikipedia, and this will make more sense later in the
You
story.
used Wikipedia.
I did use Wikipedia because I don't care what the hell. Listen, okay, listen. Okay, first of all, I'm not in school.
Well,
I'm not in school.
I recognize that.
I realize your background would cause you to be very infuriated with me using Wikipedia as a source. However, let us be reminded of the fact that 90% of these stories are more than likely made up to begin with. So
Okay.
I feel like Wikipedia is relatively reliable
I
at this point. Hopefully, we
see
won't
your
have any
point.
cat background noise. He's like
No, this one's quiet.
getting really, yeah, but if he starts rubbing on my, anyway. Yes, I used Wikipedia, and I have no shame because I also checked a lot of the sources that the Wikipedia
Oh, you
article had
double
used.
source
I
checked.
did.
Okay,
I
well,
did.
well, as long as you
And
did
they're
that.
from reputable historians or folklorists, or well, obviously this one isn't folklore, but they're like from reputable people. Like the actual like Emmys report was like cited
Okay.
in this. And then also
I got you.
the Mayo Clinic. It'll make more sense later in the
Well, the
story.
Mayo Clinic I know is legit.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, well, obviously the
I
Mayo
I
Clinic is legit, but I mean, it'll make more sense in the story that I use the Mayo Clinic. So, anyway, Elisa Lam, she was a 21-year-old college student from Canada. She went to the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, and she was born and raised in Vancouver, just to give you guys a thorough background. She decided to take a trip from school because she was studying a lot. So she took a combination of planes and trains down the west coast of North America. So from Vancouver all the way down to LA. She landed in LA on January 26th, 2013. So this is going on like relatively recently. But be warned. Is it 2013? Why do I feel like that year is wrong? Now I'm like second guessing my year. Now, after the Wikipedia debacle,
mm,
I'm now
well,
questioning my
well,
dates.
I will not be the one to say I told
No,
you so.
I was 100% factual. It was 100% truthful. Let's find it. Yes. Okay, so it's from my All That's Interesting um article. So there. Suck it.
Okay.
Anyway, so she lands in LA and she decides to stay at the Cecil Hotel.
Ooh, spooky.
Spooky. Which, if you know nothing about the Cecil Hotel, I'm about to tell you about it, but it's spooky, spooky, spook. Um, so it. Where is my information on it now? Oh, great. Now I'm all discombobulated. Okay, so anyway, it was built in like the 1920s, I want to say. 1910s, 1920s. Um, and it's got like a very sordid past, but it's like described as like a budget hotel that like no one really wanted to stay in, and it was pretty much not good. So
It's
pretty
not
much not
good.
good. Yes,
Not.
I know. The first kind of thing that went downhill for it was in the 30s. The 30s were known for a lot of suicides, but W.K. Norton was the first of many suicides that happened at this hotel between the 30s and the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, it was dubbed the Suicide instead of the Cecil because so many people committed suicide in that hotel. Which, like, why are you doing that? That's just rude.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, because you're leaving a horrible mess for those housekeepers.
Yeah. I know.
I hate to say, I know that sounds so.
Well, I think that they're not thinking that. They're thinking of the I'm trying to get away from my family so my family doesn't have to deal with it, but not thinking about the
I
fact that somebody
guess.
else is gonna
I
have
hope
to.
I'm not, like, inadvertently offending people. Actually, I hope I am offending people because I just don't understand, like, I mean, I obviously don't understand people who complete suicide because I have not actually done that. But, like, why in a hotel? I just want to know the
I'm
thought.
not
I
sure, but
just want
that's
to go through the thought
obviously
process.
it's been a popular choice for that. I don't know.
Yeah,
It wouldn't be my choice, but
yeah. It becomes known for sordid affairs and massive drug use. This is like a point that they like, of course, try to make in like every article about the Cecil, but like it was rumored that the Black Dahlia, Elizabeth Short, right?
yeah, Elizabeth
Every
Short.
time I want to call her Elizabeth Smart, and that is very wrong. Like,
Oh
very
yeah,
wrong.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
I always mix it up.
yeah.
Anyway, so Elizabeth Short was rumored to have been there prior to the murder, whether that was a few days or a few hours before her murder. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I don't trust it because it's not like even a reliable like time range. Um, this woman who worked at the hotel, her name was Pigeon Goldie Osgood.
No,
Yes,
that's an awesome name.
yeah, literally like the best name. Pigeon Goldie. First of all, she was called Pigeon Goldie.
Oh
Like
my.
people called her Pigeon
My
Goldie.
name is so boring.
Yeah, I mean,
That's like
hello,
that's a
Sarah,
that's a
boring as shit.
cool.
Aaron, no offense, boring as shit.
Yeah.
I mean, not interesting names. Pigeon Goldie Osgood is, I need to change my name clearly. But anyway, she worked at the hotel and she was like a beloved employee. People loved her. Loved her. She was raped, stabbed, beaten, murdered, and her room was ransacked.
Oh my.
Yes, yeah, pretty horrible. And that case to this day is unsolved. Um, this is a fun, not fun, obviously, but this is the real connection for like the this is this is the person that people are like, this is why the Cecil is fucked up. Richard Ramirez.
Oh yeah.
More than likely stayed there during his killing spree, but also was there like weeks beforehand because he would like frequent it for drug exchanges and sex workers.
Mm.
Because that's kind of what the hotel became known for. And then after Richard Ramirez was in there, this guy that was like obsessed with Richard Ramirez, he's called the Australian Strangler, or
Mm.
Not Australian, Austrian Strangler. His name was Jack Unterweger. And he spoke really highly of Richard Ramirez, so like it's thought that he was trying to like imitate him, and he murdered three sex workers in the Cecil
Oh my.
before he was um, arrested and convicted of all those crimes. So getting back to Elisa Lam, her parents were like really scared about her traveling alone because she's a young woman. Uh, she would she's from another country, like she's visiting from like internationally, if you want to get specific here. And so her and her parents agreed that she would call them every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So she was calling them every single day until January 31st.
Mm-hmm.
So they heard from her on January 30th. January 31st, stopped hearing from them. So if you remember, she landed on the 26th. So she was only there for 4 days before she just stopped making contact with her parents.
Okay.
So what they decided to do is they contacted the LAPD. What the LAPD did, which I was actually shocked by, no offense to law enforcement, no offense to anybody, but like they very quickly searched the hotel. Like they didn't wait 24 hours, they didn't wait for anything. Like they heard from her parents and they went and they searched the hotel
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't find anything.
Okay.
So her parents were like, well, maybe like she went on a day trip. Like her parents were nervous, but they were like, okay, well, it's not that weird. So a few weeks later, and by a few weeks, it's like a week, right? Maybe 2 weeks. Actually, I think they said 2 weeks. Anyway, there's this video that's released by the police. All right, so if you are familiar with this case, you've probably seen this video many, many times. And obviously, this is a podcast, so I can't play the video because there's not really any audio. She doesn't really talk or
Yeah,
anything. You've
that's
seen the
which
video, right?
actually I think makes it creepier that we don't
Yeah,
hear what's
yeah,
happening.
you have no audio to understand what the hell she's
So the
saying.
context is really really bizarre
Yeah, you
without
don't know
audio.
if there's another voice. Like, it's very bizarre.
Yeah.
So, the police actually released this footage and it's 4 minutes long. And so, I'm going to try and describe it to you. So, it's in the elevator. The footage is being taken in the elevator, and she has come onto the elevator and then presses all of the buttons. All of the buttons for all of the floors as
Mm.
she immediately gets onto the elevator. And then what she does is she starts stepping in and out of the elevator,
Mm-hmm.
hopping out, hopping back in, hopping out, hopping back in. And then she starts turning her head sideways from inside the elevator like she's looking for somebody. Then people start to think as they're looking at this footage that she might be looking for somebody or she might be hiding from somebody because it looks like how you'd play like almost like hide and seek, kind of. It's
Right.
very childlike and her movements are very erratic, I would say. Like when you can tell that there's something that's not quite right.
Yeah.
Like either with her or the situation. It's very bizarre.
Was she under the influence of alcohol? Did they determine?
We'll get
We'll
to that.
get there. Yeah.
We get there.
Okay.
She keeps peering outside of the elevator. Then she completely steps outside of the elevator. Now, mind you, this whole time the elevator door has not tried to close,
Yes.
which is very bizarre because, as we all know with elevators, they will periodically go to close. They never once close. They never once even get close to closing, which is really weird. She completely steps out of the elevator And then in the last like minute or two of the video, she's standing by the left side of the door outside of the elevator. So almost like where the up down buttons are outside of the elevator, she's standing there and she keeps moving her hands in like really weird gestures. And then she disappears out of the frame.
Right.
So it's like really bizarre because there's no context. You have
Mm-hmm.
no audio. You have no idea if there's somebody else there because you don't see anybody. But it looks like she's looking at somebody that's out of shot of the camera. And of course, they don't have hallway cameras, which really
Convenient.
would have been nice.
Yeah, convenient.
Convenient or like just like a shitty hotel. You know what I mean? Like I think of like shitty hotels I've stayed at, like they definitely did not have cameras in the hallways. You'd be lucky if they had a camera in the elevator. But like it's a weird video all around. So then a few weeks go by. Now the police are hoping that like by pushing out this footage that they'll get someone that had seen her or had noticed something or was the one that she was talking to or something along those lines. But on February 19th, hotel guests start complaining of foul smelling and tasting water
Oh.
and very low water pressure. Now listen. It's a shit budget hotel.
Mm.
You're calling the front desk to complain about low water pressure? What the hell kind of princess are you? You're paying for a budget motel. You should expect low water pressure. Now, the foul smelling and tasting water, I would be like, I need to leave. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't even know
Yeah.
if. Here's the thing. I probably wouldn't have called. I probably just left.
Yeah, I wouldn't, I definitely would not have called. So this is when, um, they find her body. So they get these complaints. What happens is our friend, I'm going to do a little jumping around here. Our friend Santiago Lopez. It's a very important name. Don't forget that name. He's a maintenance worker. He works for the hotel. And he's the one that actually found her body. So, where her body was found, just to give you, and we'll go into the whole like, the reason I'm not explaining to you how she gets to the water tank or water cistern thing is because we don't know. We don't have video of it. We don't have any eyewitnesses. We don't even know who did it. So we have no idea how this happened. But so on the roof of the hotel, there are four major water tanks or water cisterns, as they call it. And her body was inside of the main one on the roof.
Hmm.
I will explain to you the whole process to get to the roof later on, but just know that so the cistern is so large and it's so high up off of the roof itself that in order to remove her body, they had to drain the water tank completely and cut the side open.
Oh my.
So when Santiago Lopez had found her body, she was nude and her clothes were floating next to her, which is a weird
Weird.
fact, right?
Weird.
Bizarre. I get into my own kind of weird conspiracy theory about it later in this episode, but like it's not really a conspiracy theory. It's like my like thought about why the clothes were off, but we'll get to that in a second. Um her body was found 2 weeks after the video was released. And then that's when the police start going into high gear. So they start interviewing everyone and trying to get like an idea of what actually happened. And all the hotel staff said that Elisa was seen alone in the hotel at all times. She was never seen with anyone else. So in that video, when she's looking around the corner, who is she looking at if she was never with anyone in the hotel?
A ghost?
Yeah, that is a theory. And that movie Dark Water that I was talking about, they go into it's a whole supernatural thing, and
Mm.
it's also tied to like a Japanese folklore story, but like it's based around this whole kind of thought process of having been found in a water cistern, and like
Mm.
it's a very odd kind of thing. Um, but anyway, she had been last seen in this bookstore called the Last Bookstore, which is kind of
Oh,
spooky.
the
Yeah.
last bookstore.
Yeah, it was very, very spooky. And the owner, Katie Orphan, also freaking spooky. Like, first of all, your last name is Orphan and your bookstore is called the Last Bookstore. Like, I feel like, come on. Come on. The owner said that Elisa had purchased books and music for her family in Vancouver, which I thought was very specific. Also, it's 2013.
Hmm.
Putting that into perspective, who's buying music
I don't know.
for their
Not
family
me.
like
I
that?
mean, not
Yeah.
me. No.
And that Lamb appeared to have been planning to go back to her family at some point. That there was like she had planned, meaning like she didn't drown herself in the
Yeah.
cistern kind of thing. Um, so the Emmy ruled that it was an accidental drowning.
Okay.
Okay. And that bipolar disorder was a significant factor.
Okay. I'm sure you're gonna elaborate there.
Oh, yes. I will elaborate because I think it's bullshit. I think it is a cop out that the Emmy was using to pretty much give the police what they wanted so that they didn't have to investigate it because they didn't have very many leads. And I don't care if that bothers people. Not that there's really anyone listening to this, so it shouldn't really bother anyone,
I don't know,
but
but we may get a phone call from the police
I'm just saying
soon.
LAPD don't sue me, but like I'm just saying I think that's a cop out. So the autopsy showed that she had many prescription drugs in her system, which were all and I get to them later on, but they were all assumed to be for bipolar disorder.
Right.
But there was no alcohol and no illegal substances found in her body.
So her weird behavior was just
Oh yeah.
unexplainable.
And
Just weird
now
behavior.
yeah, it's weird behavior, but in the context of you'll see in a moment, she actually was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and given specific parameters, that behavior would be expected.
Right.
And I'll get to it in a second, but like, it shouldn't have been happening. You know what I'm saying? So, for example, the autopsy showed that Lamb took at least one antidepressant that day, that she had had a second antidepressant and a mood stabilizer on the previous day, which means um, that she hadn't taken her mood stabilizer that day. The other part is that her antipsychotic had not been taken at any point recently, is what the autopsy said, which means within 5 to 7 days. Which, if you regularly take an antipsychotic and you abruptly go off of it,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
it's bad news bears.
Yeah.
And the bad news bears that can happen is that you'll start having manic side effects in varying degrees. So if you don't know I didn't want to describe bipolar disorder because most people know what it is,
Right.
or know someone who has it. However, most people don't know what mania is. They don't
Mm-hmm.
understand it. And so manic side effects are, for example, abnormally upbeat, jumpy, or wired, increased activity, energy, or agitation, exaggerated sense of well being and self confidence, decreased need for sleep, unusual talkativeness, racing thoughts, distractibility, and the most important one in this case, poor decision making. For example, going on buying sprees, taking sexual risks, or making foolish investments. Those foolish investments.
Hmm.
I think specifically they're trying to say that she made a poor decision that caused her to accidentally drown. And the reason she made that poor decision is because she was not taking her meds regularly. Which, if we're going with simplest explanation,
Mm-hmm.
that ties
Yeah.
it up pretty well. However, when we get to the actual specifics of how to get to that place,
Right.
very suspect that she could have done that by herself. Now,
I'm intrigued.
yes, exactly, exactly. Okay. So, up until now, all we know is that Elisa Lam is a 21-year-old college student. Pretty normal, pretty chill. Her friends were like, she's just really into school,
Right.
normal kind of person. So, the hotel manager, Amy Price, stated that Elisa had to be removed from her original hostel type hotel room. You know, where they're sharing bunk bed
Yeah.
style
Yeah.
situation.
I've stayed in a hostel before. It's
Yeah. Not the most fun, but like if you're trying to travel on a budget, it's a good idea. Um that she had to be removed from that hotel room because of her reported odd behavior. And
Hmm.
they didn't go into specifics about what that odd behavior was, but that it was weird enough that she was forced into a private room by herself. Now, as the hotel manager, how weird does that person have to be acting that you put her in a private room by herself and then not charge her more?
That is very bizarre.
She was acting so strangely that they just were like, listen, we know we're gonna eat it on this one, but this bitch needs to get away from everyone. Right? It leads you into
And that's all they do, and there's no follow through.
no follow through. No follow through.
And here's my question: they just move her to a new room. If they're concerned about her behavior, why do they allow her to stay? Why don't they delve into it? I'm sure you're
Exactly.
gonna answer these questions.
Well, sort of, kind of. They don't really go into it because they don't interview any of the people that were in the shared hostel room with her.
They interview no one.
They interviewed hotel staff, but not guests.
Staff, and I guess,
Yeah.
and they're not charging her, and they allow her to stay. Is that what you're saying? They don't charge her for this new room,
Yeah, they don't charge her for that new room.
and allow her to stay. A person who's not paying. Yeah.
Well, I mean, she paid for the hostel room,
Right.
but not a private room.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Very weird. So the coroner's office said that the processed evidence showed no foul play. So there wasn't any, sexual assault or, and I want to say there were no visible signs of these things because she was found in water.
Which will erase some evidence.
Yeah, which washes away evidence, and she was found without her clothing on,
Mm-hmm.
which means any evidence that was on that clothing has now washed into that cistern. If there was blood on her, it's gone. Like, your decomposition starts happening at a different rate. It's like everything gets messed up. So, like, of the processed evidence that they could discern, there was no foul play. Um, however, the coroner, by the way, that's not COVID. That's just a cough. I had a tickle in my throat.
Well, it better not be because I'm sitting right next to you, and
That's-
I don't have a mask on. So
That's a valid point. We do. I mean, we're roommates.
Yeah,
so
we're
like,
roommates,
if
yeah.
if I had COVID, you'd have COVID.
right, we'd be sharing COVID.
We're passing COVID back and forth. That's not funny. We shouldn't joke about it, but still, that's a scary thing.
Yes.
The coroner's office couldn't do a full examination of her body because they could not process the blood in her body. Now, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know what that means either.
I have a feeling it has to do with the water, but I'm not sure. They don't expand on that at all. They just said that they couldn't do a full examination, which means they couldn't possibly have done a full autopsy.
Is that true of any drowning victim, or is it this in this case?
I don't know. Maybe it was the
Is that-
length of time.
Because I've never heard. I mean, but they pull bodies out of the water that have been in there for
Or
some
maybe
time.
her blood was drained. And that's like maybe because this wasn't ruled a homicide, they didn't go into like why the blood couldn't be processed because it wasn't deemed as important because it was an accidental drowning. But I feel like coming up with the ruling that it's an accidental drowning should involve the blood in some capacity. Well, maybe not, but I don't know.
Well, we're not forensic experts here,
No.
but still, it's a question that I would have.
It's a quandary, if you will.
Yeah.
Did I use that word right?
I have no idea.
I have no idea. It's a conundrum wrapped up in an enigma of confusion. That's my personal favorite phrase. I don't know if I ever use it correctly, but more than likely I never use it right, but that's fine. So, months after the disappearance and her death, Elisa's parents, David and Yinna Lam. Yinna, I love that name. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Yinna. It's a pretty name. They file a wrongful death suit against the Cecil Hotel, which, by the way, isn't called the Cecil Hotel anymore. It's called the Stay on Main because the Cecil Hotel had so many bad connotations, just the name of it.
Well, yeah.
And in the suit, they stated that the hotel had a duty to inspect and seek out hazards in the hotel that presented an unreasonable risk of danger to Lamb and other hotel guests. Well, no shit. That's like making sure you have operational staircases and wheelchair ramps and elevators that work properly. Like, of course, the hotel has that responsibility. Well, the hotel, being the fucking hotel, and a business entity, filed a motion to dismiss the suit, of course. And I'm not a big legal. I mean, I wish I had gone to law school so I could have understood all this shit, but You're filing a motion to dismiss a suit. Like, I don't understand what that means. That means you're like filing a piece of paper to get it thrown out?
I don't know.
I'm assuming that's what that means.
I've
Um
got nothing to contribute to any of this. I'm just listening. I'm just
I mean, it's a valid point. I don't know, maybe you know more about lawyer shit than me. Maybe you have a sordid past.
I mean, no, I
Damn it, Aaron. No sordid
I mean,
past.
I know people with sordid past,
I
but
mean, the only time I've ever needed a lawyer was for my divorce, and that
right.
was like pretty lame. I mean, all around, but I mean, not all around, but like, it wasn't very exciting. I didn't, I did get to go into a courtroom. That was kind of fun, but anyway, the hotel had no reason to think that someone would be able to get into one of their water tanks. Now, I will go into how that seems reasonable. It's not as far fetched as you think because the way in which she would have had to get into the water tank is fucking insane. It's insane. So, this is where I'm going to go into it. Okay, so do you remember Lopez?
Yeah.
Santiago Lopez. Okay. So he explained in this motion, he like signed an affidavit of like how difficult it would have been for anybody to get inside of this water tank. So, the elevator to the 15th floor. So this hotel is 15 floors plus the roof. So you have to take the elevator to the 15th floor. That's the easy part of the journey. Okay. Then you have to take a staircase to the rooftop. Again, easy journey.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to turn off the rooftop alarm.
Okay. And she would know this how,
We'll
right?
get to how it would be preposterous for her to know the alarm code. Then you have to climb up a ladder onto the platform where the four water tanks are. So imagine you're on a roof.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got to climb probably 15 feet, 10, 15 feet up onto a platform where the water tanks are.
Right.
Then you have to climb up another ladder to the top of the main water tank because there's only one hatch for these water tanks. There's only one hatch and it's on the top of it. So you have to climb all the way to the top of the water tank. And then what Santiago noticed was that the main hatch was open.
Right.
So when he saw that the main hatch was open, he looked in, and what he saw was Elisa Lam floating face up, and it was about a foot from the top of the water tank. Like, how terrifying would that be? Like, you just casually look into what you think is going to be a large container of water, and there is a dead person staring back at you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can't imagine that.
And then also the hotel engineer, so like the main guy, I believe I'm using the word engineer correctly, like the main guy in charge of like facilities. I think of like Mike, right?
Right.
Um, I can use that name. That's like a generic name, right?
We didn't say who he was.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's listening.
No, he's definitely not listening. And like
And neither is anyone else that would be connected to him, so
honestly, yeah, probably not at all. So anyway, the hotel engineer, his name is Pedro Tovar, which if I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry. I'm gonna pre-apologize for saying
and again,
anything wrong.
Pedro was also not listening.
Pedro's also not listening. He said that it would be extremely difficult to access the rooftop without tripping the alarms
Right.
because only hotel employees would be able to disarm the alarm. That's funny. Disarm the alarm.
Disarm the alarm.
If it were tripped. So the only people that have the codes are hotel employees. She's not hanging out with anybody. So who gave her the goddamn code? Who's giving her the code?
I say no one is giving her the code.
On top of the fact that if the alarm was tripped, okay, the sound of the alarm would have rung on the top two floors. So the 14th and the 15th floors would have had the alarm going off and the front desk. So if she had tripped that alarm by not having the original code, it would have alerted people that she was up there and people would have gone up there.
Well,
Which means she either knew the code, somebody else knew the code, or somebody was already there.
yeah.
None of those cases sound good.
No.
Right? And just a reminder, before she dies, she's acting very erratically, like almost like she's drunk. Which means if she's acting erratically on solid ground inside of a building, she's probably acting erratically on top of a building. um and the Superior Court judge Howard Halm, who like heard this case, ruled that the death was unforeseeable. Okay?
Okay.
Because it was in an area where guests were not permitted.
Oh, okay.
So it was a death that the hotel could not have anticipated because it was not a place where the guests should have even been. Which
Okay.
I argue is dumb because that's like saying if you can't see it, it won't cause you any harm. But I see from like a legal perspective, from like an insurance
Yeah, it's
perspective, it makes
legalese.
sense.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
So he dismissed the case. So it's been ruled an accidental death, and that is that. It has never been solved. There's no one that has come forward. And honestly, she probably was having a manic episode and got onto the roof.
this is an open case still though? Or
No.
oh, they
Oh,
did
they
close.
closed
They
it.
did
Oh,
close
yeah,
it.
they closed it. Because they ruled it an accidental death. An
Yeah,
accidental
but
drowning.
somewhere out there's somebody that's probably still trying to investigate it. I would
I would
assume.
imagine, yeah. But, like,
Well, I mean, we could investigate.
we could investigate it.
Investigate it.
Well, my thing is that it's a conspiracy.
Well, there's something
Because
not kosher.
even if she was acting erratically, even if she was in a manic episode, even if she went to the roof, she would have tripped the alarm.
Yeah, that's the key.
That's the problem. Either someone let her onto that roof or someone was with her.
Yeah.
Because there's no way she guessed the code. I mean, there's no way.
I mean, the odds are pretty slim.
Pretty slim.
Do you
pretty
think
damn
do you
slim.
think that this cat's purring is getting picked up?
I guarantee you it is, and it's going to cause problems, but, like, maybe it's, like, kind of a nice soothing...
Yeah, we're hoping anyone listening finds cat purring to be soothing.
And if cats irritate the shit out of you, fuck you.
Yeah.
Because we love cats. We
Yeah.
love cats. We love
And you have
spooky
no
shit.
idea how precious this cat looks. We realize that the hearing of the cat might not be precious, but the looking of the cat.
I mean, to be honest, if you understand the concept of scary shit, you've experienced having to clean a cat box. Because there is some scary shit in that place.
Well, these cats shit like humans.
They do.
Which
I
find
do, which is
terrifying.
horrifying and, like, really graphic.
Yeah.
So couple of, like, pop culture references that came from this. Like I said, the movie Dark Water. I have a feeling it came out before this even happened. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, now I feel like this movie came out before she even died.
Did I watch that? I gotta Google that. I feel like I may have
Okay,
watched it.
so it did. So this gets even more interesting. So the movie Dark Water came out in 2005, and it's almost exactly the same concept as the same circumstances as what happened to Elisa Lam.
I'm looking at
And Elisa Lam didn't die until 8 years later, which is creepy. And it says that it's based on a short story called Floating Water from a Japanese writer named Koji Suzuki, who also wrote the Ring trilogy. So I hate to say this,
boy.
but is this like one of those weird, like, folklore story that now is, like, inadvertently reflecting a real... It's very bizarre. I didn't realize that it had come out so much earlier.
Wow. Okay.
Or maybe this kind of thing happens often? I'm more worried about that being a reality, that it happens more often than I think.
I can't think of any other time I've heard that.
Yeah, I can't either. If you are
well, there was that guy in Baltimore that had, like, that mysterious...
Yeah, but it wasn't in a water tank. He may or may not have jumped off of a roof.
True.
Or I think he fell out of a helicopter.
Oh, well.
Which is a, like, weird thing. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a different day. That's a good story for a different day. Yeah, we'll do that one time. If you watch the new Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix, it was, like, the first episode about the Lord Baltimore Hotel, which is another thing that we definitely should do an episode on. But anyway, getting back to this. So
spooky hotels.
Or
where weird shit just happened at that hotel.
Exactly. American Horror Story, the hotel season, is loosely based off the Cecil Hotel.
Yes.
But they don't ever do a story related to Elisa Lam because the whole premise of the hotel's season is, like, based around events that happened in, like, the 30s and 40s.
Yes.
And then in modern times, so, like, it wouldn't have coincided with anything like that. But if you don't watch American Horror Story, you definitely should because it's really fucking awesome. And more of these stories that we're doing this month will probably be related to that.
Yes.
And it also, for all you video game people, I don't know. I'm about to talk about shit I don't understand, but which is the story of my life.
Okay.
And sorry if I just blew out your ears with my cackling, but it is a problem.
Wait, what's that noise?
I don't know. It's probably the assholes outside.
I thought it was upstairs.
Well,
never
let's
mind.
hope it's a cat if it's upstairs.
Yeah.
So anyway, it inspired scenes in the game. Oh God, Yick. I don't know if that's a thing. A postmodern RPG game. I don't know what any of that means.
That's lingo I don't know of.
But the co-founder of the studio that put out the game said that there still hasn't been a great official story about her, referring to Elisa Lam. And I remember on local news they reported it from the gross out angle because people drank water that a corpse had been floating in.
Oh,
That's
nice.
unfortunate.
Nice.
But what about the poor girl who died? It's easy to say she was off her meds, but why can't people think a bit more about her as a person? And that is the reason why I have a problem with the police and the coroner's office saying that it was an accidental drowning or bipolar was the significant factor, because you are saying that she did this to herself.
You're victim blaming.
And like, whether she was on her meds or not, that does play a factor in it, but like, we still don't understand the circumstances behind this girl's death. And like, someone could have been there. Someone had to have been there to at least let her onto the roof. It may not have been foul play. They might have just been like, oh, this bitch needs to get some air, and just let her onto the roof. I mean, I don't know. But it can't just be like she just wandered onto the roof and that night the alarm wasn't tripped. It's kind of weird.
I definitely say there's a lot of unanswered questions. So that's really a shame that there's no closure there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's just so weird.
That's the worst.
Yeah, it truly is. So yeah, so we're gonna like wrap this up, but like what we really want to start doing is reading like scary stories from you guys, like at the end of the episodes, maybe.
And by you guys, we mean
all four of you
right now. So tell your friends if you just happen to somehow stumble upon us and you like what you hear, or hell, maybe you don't even like it, but you know someone else that will. Just we would love to hear. And they don't have to be ghost stories. They don't have to be murder stories. Just something weird, or
or it could be something that you thought was really scary, but then now looking back, you're like, oh no, that was the wind or whatever. Maybe hopefully something scarier.
It could tie in with humor. It could be a humorous yet slightly scary story.
I'm totally down with that. So our email address is 31, the number like 31, nights of scary shit at gmail.com. Yeah, I know this is a long shot for all four of you that you guys still would send an email, but like maybe someone will out in the ether do that. Because we do want to like learn more shit and share more shit and just talk about scary shit and be about scary shit at all times. So anyway, thank you for listening. Hopefully we'll have a fourth episode at some point.
I think we will. I think we will.
Hopefully they won't shut us down, the man. I don't know what that means. I don't know where I'm going. Well, I
mean, the man is not listening either.
I hope Donald Trump is listening right now, and I don't know why I immediately assumed he is the only man.
Yeah, I wasn't going there.
Hogan, I hope you're listening. You're scary shit right now. No, I appreciate you, Hogan, but like, let's get our head out of Trump's ass. Anyway, this is not a political podcast. Anyway, thank you for listening, and this is 31 Nights of Scary Shit.